Well, hello there, and welcome to the Dana Spencer Show, where we talk about solving problems, building relationships, quitting corporate, and the freedom to walk in your God given purpose. So, how are we feeling today? I hope you are feeling amazing. You've got the activity of your limbs. This is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And I'm super glad today because I have an amazing guest with me today. And she's my cousin too, but she still is amazing. So I want everyone to give a warm welcome to Miss Jasmine William. Woo! Welcome to the show, Jasmine. How are you feeling today, Jasmine?
I am great. I'm so blessed to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Dana. We're family, so this is right where we are. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I'm super glad you're here. And I know you are a busy woman, so we are just going to jump right into today's episode. So, Jasmine, tell me, when you were a little girl, what was it that you wanted to be when you grew up?
As a little girl, I would say, I kind of had my dreams were just out there. So there wasn't like one particular field that I was like, this is what I'm doing. I had dreams. I thought that painting was what I wanted to do. I thought being an artist was what I wanted to do. I thought being a doctor was, what I ultimately wanted to be. I didn't just have that one set dream that I wanted for myself. I kept my options very open so that when I got to being an adult, I could just kind of jump around and see what was fit for me. But ultimately, I think, growing up watching sports, just being excited to be in that field so much and having that family atmosphere of sports, I wanted to be an athlete. That's what I wanted to be right out of the gate. But life takes you all kinds of different ways, but sports was a huge part of my childhood.
Well, awesome. And like you said, and I know you had some family members. I know an uncle that ran. And so,
Mhm.
how did your path end up into becoming an athlete?
So my grandfather was actually who helped me to see that I had God-given talent. I was so blessed to have him be so supportive and in my corner every step of the way. So I would say having that family involvement and having that family support definitely gave me the motivation to say, okay, I might try out. Track was like the first sport that I had ever tried. And so my grandpa would just push me, go to practice every day. You can be good at this. And so I just continued to practice, to push, to push, to push until I was finally like, okay, I might have some talent. I might just be good at this. And so I just continued to do it until that was just something that I enjoy doing.
Well, yeah, and I know whenever I would see you, you would be with your grandpa a lot. So, what just the importance of having that male role model in your life? Like, how much does that mean to you?
It meant absolutely everything to me. I he was my father figure growing up. So for me, having that support and that encouragement made me want to just go that much harder every day. I was the only athlete. I have two older sisters, and I was the only one that really played sports. We were all academically involved, but sports were just something that growing up in a female household, it just wasn't pushed as much as academics. So I never thought that I would go to college to play sports, let alone just be so involved in high school that I had the opportunity. So having him in my life as that figure definitely pushed me to want to like keep going and seeing how far I could get.
Right. And so then ultimately you would go to, is it Butler High School and
I went to
run?
Butler.
Okay.
Yep.
And then what else? What did the path, where did track lead you?
So I started off running actually cross country in high school. And cross country led me into track because, the seasons are kind of back to back. And my junior year of high school, I actually started getting recruited to run in college. And at the time, I wasn't even making grades good enough to go to college. I had some health things going on with one of my best friends, and so I was had my mind in a lot of different places in high school. So I wasn't really focused on track as much as I would have liked to be. And so basically, I started really pushing myself my junior year of high school, senior year, and then I ended up committing and signing to Brescia University, which is where I attended, and I had a full ride scholarship to run cross country and track there. So I was very blessed to be recruited in high school, even though I didn't have much time under my belt training. I just pushed myself to want to go to college and just take it to that next level.
Well, and then you mentioned about your grades. And so you
Mhm.
said your grades weren't even that good. So what would you tell to that person out there who's like, you know what, this school thing and these
Mhm.
grades and these papers, it's just not for me. What kind of advice would you give to them?
I would say, definitely, school is what's going to ultimately push you to that next level. The talent is going to be there, but the hard work, it kind of has to be, you have to find a balance, I guess I would say, to answer that question. And the only way as a high school student, especially, and even as a college student being so young, finding that balance is more helpful when you have people around you like mentors, spiritual mentors especially, and a church family and a solid family and support group that's helping you to kind of balance those things, balance school, and having the tutors there. We had in college, I mean, we had study hall, we had tutors, we were going to church together on Sundays. I went to a Catholic school, so we were really involved in just every aspect. So it wasn't just sports, it was the structure of, you know, mass, a school practice. I mean, it was very structured. So I would say balance and then having a structure definitely helped me to stay on top of my grades. And I would give that advice to someone else.
And then, I mean, I have had conversation with athletes and it just blows my mind like the word that you're using, the balance. So you've got to practice and you've got school and then you've got meets and you've got away meets. And I mean, how are
Mhm.
you able to juggle all of that and still be successful? That's just so much pressure on an individual, especially being young.
Absolutely. I mean, really, it came down to every day. I mean, so my week started on Sunday. That was my time to reset. I was in mass, church, those kind of things, and then you set your week out on Sunday, so you already know what that week's going to look like going into Monday. You already knew what classes you were going to take. You already knew what school was going to look like. So, just making a daily log of what's priority. Like for me, when I was in college, I had two a days on Mondays and Wednesdays. So Monday morning at 5 a.m., we met at the Y and we did aqua jogging. We did, exercises in the pool to kind of build our endurance. And then we would have a run after that. And then we would meet in the weight room that evening after classes. And then Tuesdays were long runs. So every day was mapped out and we had to log everything that we were doing every day. It was very detailed because it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to have your schedule be thrown off by other things. But if you keep a daily log of what you need to do and what needs to be accomplished, that was my way of getting through all of that chaos of being a college student.
And you mentioned one key word is distractions.
Yes.
And when I think about social media and that word distraction,
Yeah.
how can an athlete, I mean, with being an athlete and social media, I mean, I can't even imagine what that would even be like, the pressure of it all. So, were you into social media? Because when you were in college,
Um, into social media, but it was too, and this was back in the day a little bit, not too much, but I was in social media, but you know, it's hard to get the time to devote to it if you're really serious about being an athlete, especially to the caliber that they expect you to be at the college level. I mean, you really don't have the time to devote to social media in the way that it could be. You know, I could see maybe like right before you go to sleep at night or in between classes, but even then, it's just you just don't have the time or you don't want to devote the capacity to um, getting too wrapped up in social media because it can deter you from just being able to focus straight on what it is that you need to do. So yeah, I know that social media now is a huge distraction, but I would say, keeping yourself focused on what your goal is at the end of the day. What do you want to do at the end of the meet? What do you want to do at the end of, whatever sport it is you play? Keeping your eye on the prize. I think that's really the only way, is to continuously remind yourself, like, what am I feeding myself every day on social media? If you're watching athletic videos, if you're being inspired by people who have put in the time and the training before you, social media can be a tool to your success. But if you're spending the time, feeding yourself with things that are not supplying you or that sport, then you're really just, kind of doing yourself a little bit of disservice, in my opinion.
So what about that person who is like, man, I got to build my brand? Because, that's the
Right.
thing now, is that you got to build your brand. And how can you build a brand if you're not actively on social media? Do you think that's true? Or there's ways to be successful without being on social media, quote unquote, building that brand?
When you speak specifically about building the brand, it makes total sense. And I do think that having a social media presence can definitely take an athlete to the next level. I guess it really just comes down to, like, what image are you putting out there for yourself? So social media can be a huge influence on an athlete's career. It can be a huge influence on how you influence other athletes to be successful. So you can reach a huge audience, I feel like, with just how you present yourself on social media, but also, how you're sharing information, how you're using information, how it's benefiting you to get to the next level. So I definitely would agree that a social media presence could benefit um, an athlete and get into that next level.
And I just want to talk about your stats for just a second before we move past college. I'm not a track star, right? But
Sure.
it seems like I can remember you run a mile in, like, I don't know, something crazy, like 4 minutes are just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I surprised myself because in high school, that 4 minute, 5 minute range, you're getting huge looks, and it's getting you confused because you're not training to the level that you are at the college level. So you're kind of just running with pure talent and just energy from the crowd and that kind of thing. So being at that caliber in high school, I was shocked when I saw myself do some of the things that I did. I was like, where is this coming from? Like, and my grandpa would tell me all the time, like, you have natural talent. You just got to put in the work. And for me, I was like, no, I just feel like there's something more that I'm going for. Like, even with a 4 minute mile, like, I just always wanted to continuously get better. And so with running at that caliber, even as an adult going into the military, I always pushed myself to get back to that level. As I grew, I always wanted to be the person who could run the fastest mile in my age group, whether that be with the people around me, male or female. That competitiveness has always stayed in me. So I definitely would say that, having that talent, but also putting in that work, the competitiveness never really goes away. It just never goes away. So,
And it's so interesting that you said that, because I didn't even realize that I'm competitive. And growing up, I would have considered myself to be a lazy teenager. That's what I called myself. But I played an instrument. So I have to be first chair. Like, there's always
yes.
this, I have to be the best. And where do you think that comes from, and how important is it? I know some people are not competitive. Some people would have been okay with, whether I run a 4 minute mile or not, I'm good. So
Right.
how important is it to always want to be better, always wanting to strive to whatsoever your hand findeth to do it with all your might? We see that in scripture. How important
Yes.
is it to be competitive and to continually want to always do better and be better?
It's extremely important. It's extremely important in so many areas of your life, whether that be spiritually, mentally, physically. Being an athlete, being someone who plays an instrument, whatever it might be, there's always I believe that there are levels to everything. And so if you're striving to be at a certain level, like, you have to go through certain avenues to get there. Like, there's I don't believe, especially, that even with me having talent, that I was just gonna be at the top off the bat. I knew that there was gonna have to be work to be done to get there. So for me, I always took it as, where am I at? And I evaluated where I could be in a couple of weeks. And always evaluated where I could be, in that next month. So I was continuously kind of rating myself, getting the feedback from my coach, and then seeing where it would take me to the next level. So I feel like that competitiveness it just comes from having the thought of always wanting to do better, always wanting to have a better ending than where your beginning was. So I think it's really innately in all of us. I feel like every person has some level of competitiveness, but how they express that can look different because everyone has their own goals and how they choose to reach them. But definitely at this level of my life, I might have not been as competitive as I was, in college and high school, especially when it comes to running. But just even getting back into it since I've been back in Kentucky and gearing up to run a mini marathon and that kind of thing, I can see some of that competitiveness starting to come back. So it feels good to know that you have that level and you want to just keep getting better.
Yeah, and you mentioned a coach, and we all know, and athletes have said it time and time again, the importance of having good coaches in your life. What would you say to that athlete who needs to receive the constructive criticism from their coach? How important is it to, you know what, there's some things that I need to improve, recognize that, and be able to take that good feedback?
It's so important. It's so important. And it's a relationship that has to start with trust. And I say that because, in high school, when my college coach was recruiting me, he didn't know me from a can of paint. He saw me run a couple of times. He said, "This is the potential I see in you." And even still then, I was like, I don't really, I'm going to have to, I wanted to build a trusting relationship with him. So I was testing him, even though he was the one that was giving me the opportunity. So having that coach's input and believing in them, I went from my freshman year, I went from being I was in the conference championship, I remember, and I was 2 spots off from making it to nationals. And after that season, my coach told me, "You should have not only went to nationals, but you should have won the conference championship. You've been working extremely hard this season." So that next year, I did everything he told me to do. I bought into the system. And you'll hear that a lot in coaching is we need athletes who are willing to buy into the system of this is how a coaching program is structured. This is how we think that you as an individual athlete can respond to the coaching if you trust and believe in the system. So after I trusted and believed in the system, it took a year for me to get transitioned to it. But I ended up coming back that year being a conference championship, literally winning the conference championship in front of my family, friends, on a cold, rainy November day, in front of my niece, in front of all my family, and then went to the national championship. And from there, I didn't miss a national championship moving forward into the end of my college career. So having that trusting relationship between coach and athlete is, I would say, is very crucial in athlete success.
Ah, kudos to you. I just got chills about that. That's so, oh, I love that. I
Yeah,
love it. I love it.
it think back and see the pictures on Facebook come up of that day because there's just certain things. The race came down, it was neck and neck into the very, very end of the finish line. And just from seeing those pictures come back, and having my teammates share them even years down the road, it just makes me think about all the obstacles and the hurdles that I had to overcome to get to winning first place. I was sick that day. It was freezing cold. The odds were against me, but I knew I had to put on the show, and that is what I dug deep within me to do, and by the grace of God, 100%.
So how do you, so you said a whole bunch there in terms of obstacles. Like,
Yeah.
obstacles are gonna come. Like, there
Yeah.
is no perfect day, especially like you said on championship day, or Super Bowl Sunday, or whatever it
Right.
is. What is it that, and how are you able to dig down deep enough to actually pull it off, regardless of your condition being sick, regardless of the external conditions? What was it that you were able to do to really dig down and get that first place?
You know, it was because I went into the race, and like I said, I was extremely sick. My coach came up to me and he said, "This race can go anyway." I mean, I was at that time can you hear me okay?
Now I can, yeah.
At that time, I was running the best on my team, but there were other athletes that were kind of neck and neck behind me. So he had told me between anyone on my team or anyone in any of the other um, conferences, anyone could win the race. So he knew going into that race that I was sick. I wasn't feeling the greatest in spirit, nor was I feeling the greatest mentally. I was to a point where I said, I just want to finish. Um, I never had the intentions. I never had the win. I mean, I never had the, like, you know how in some sports they're like, this person is projected to win by this much. All season I was doing very well, but that day it really and truly was anybody's game. So he said, it's gonna hurt to win, but you can. And so I ran the race. I knew the course. It was our home course. And it literally just took, painful. It was painful. It took me digging really deep down. I think I won by like 0.5 of a second. It was literally probably my knee, just stretching my knee out that much to get across that line, that beat that girl from, it was my teammate, or another girl that had ran for Asbury, is who I beat. And it was so close. And so I think really just digging down and just having that faith and believing in myself just barely herred me over the line just that much. So that was a huge obstacle, being sick. Sometimes you have to just really fight and dig and ask yourself, how bad do I want it? How bad do I want this win? Taking second place would have still got me to nationals. Taking fifth place would have still got me to nationals. But I wanted to win. I wanted to win on my home turf. I wanted to win in front of my family. So I knew I had to fight to do it. And fortunately, by the grace of God, is what I was able to do.
And I love that. It hurts to win. And
Yes.
we don't like hurt. We don't like
No.
to be uncomfortable. We don't even like cold. Like there's so much that we don't like that we have to push through the uncomfortable. I love
Yes.
that. I love that. So once you graduated from college, you said something about the military. Where did the military fit in?
So
And why?
mhm. the military, the military was actually after, so after college, I actually I went and got my master's and coached, and I was a GA in New Orleans at the school I was getting my master's at. So I was coaching cross country and track. The military then came after that. When I moved to Nashville, I felt as though, there was a part of me that was kind of missing. There was a part of me that I felt like I could tap more into, I could give more into. And so I joined the Army National Guard and went to basic training. And that's when the being in shape came all over again. I was like, I feel like I'm in college all over again. It was great, but it was like, what is this? Like, not again. So I had to go all the way back into just having that daily routine of weightlifting and getting in shape and being one of the only females in my platoon, um, and being as competitive as I was. There was never a day off in that training. So that got me right back into the training environment, and it made me feel like an athlete all over again. So that was something that basic training was something that I definitely um, got through with a smile, because it got me back into that athletic mode again.
Well, and thank you so much for your service. Oh my word,
Mhm.
that's incredible. So then, okay, we're done with basic training, and what was next?
So after basic training, I actually came home back to Tennessee. I started my PhD program, and I was just living life, just doing my thing. I was working inpatient, and I was in my field, which was mental health, and I was doing that. And then I had to go back to more military training after my year, because I was due for my job training, and I had to go for some physical training, and so I kind of just kept myself at a level where I knew that I was going to have to keep building to get to where I wanted to go, which was ultimately, getting promoted in the military, being able to do the job that I was trained to do, which was work in aircraft and work with soldiers who were thinking about enlisting. So I ended up getting back to recruitment, which was my job in the military.
Okay, and then you said something about mental health. So what are you doing in the mental health space?
So currently, I work for the Department of Juvenile Justice as a clinician. So what we do is we teenagers, teens who have been adjudicated for serious crimes. we basically follow their treatment planning. We assess them for any mental health, substance abuse issues that they may be struggling with. And as a clinician, we work with them to make sure that they're being stabilized, make sure they have connections to all the resources that they need, spiritual resources. We get them involved in physical activities while they're in detention centers, while they're committed to our detention centers. And so we just pretty much follow their treatment while they're adjudicated and try to help them get connected to resources when they get out off of probation.
And so when I think about mental health and
Yeah,
being an athlete, that
yeah,
is really a big deal right now. How important is it to make sure that your mental health is where it needs to be, whether you are an athlete, whether you are a teen? How important is mental health?
it's so important. It's so important, and it's important especially, as a youth, because when you're in college, whether you're in college or not, um, when mental health, you can start to notice mental health issues at any time in your development. You can start to notice them later on in life. You can start to notice them as an athlete while you're going through changes. When you're in college, you're in your early, I was 17 when I went to college. So you're still developing, your brain is still developing, your body is still changing. So having that support system and being able to reach out to your coach, your teammates, your peers is so important for your mental health. You're being asked to do so much. You're being asked to show up in so many different ways. And so even just every day in life, it's so important to take care of our mental health because that is how we show up for ourselves and for others. So taking care of our mental health, being connected to the resources. I will say that Kentucky in general, I know this podcast, people are probably everywhere watching. Anywhere you go, there are so many resources. And I think that resources often get overlooked because, not a lot of people talk about mental health and don't really see it might be an everyday issue. But even if it's not an everyday issue, having resources and being connected to those can really help someone get through phases of life that we often go through when we're developing. And that's from, like I said, from youth to adult. So I highly recommend mental health treatment for athletes and for anyone who is just going through daily struggles or just needs someone to talk to.
And so how do you know when it's time to call someone? Almost like with, something, a spot that you notice on your body.
Right,
And you sometimes you try to Google it or just pray that it
right.
goes away. When do you know, you know what? This isn't normal and maybe I need some help. Give us some tips to recognize when it's time to call somebody and reach out for those resources.
Yeah. I would say, anytime you're going through a life transition, it could be a positive life transition. You might just need an extra ear. You might want, an outside, unbiased opinion. And I say that having support from from your family and from friends is great, but having an unbiased opinion and someone who is a professional and has the resources and the training to be able to, give you that support can really go a long way. And so I would say, ha- there doesn't even have to be a particular time to tap into mental health treatment. And I think that there's just such a big stigma around mental health treatment as you have to have something wrong with you in order to just talk to someone. Absolutely not. You can be in the healthiest, most blessed time of your life. It's just kind of like me being a Christian. I'm going to say this. It's kind of like saying that you need to pray to God, just when you're going through something or your higher power. I praise him when through the storm. It doesn't matter what the time is. He always deserves my higher power always deserves my praise. So it's no different for my mental health. And when I'm going through my mental health issues, or if someone is going through a mental health issues, you could turn to your higher power, to your God for that guidance, but also following through with just taking care of yourself and reaching out to a therapist could just be another resource to just really ensure that you're taking care of your wellness. I wouldn't even say, mental health treatment, just say just overall wellness, checking into my overall wellness. And that kind of takes the stigma out of the term mental health, mental illness.
And so what are some tips that you would give us as far as what we can just do as individuals to make sure that we are mentally healthy?
Yeah, I would say, exercising is always going to be a number one tip for me when I'm feeling stressed out. Taking just 20 to 30 minutes, whether that be meditating or doing just a quick hit workout. I do those a lot in the morning before I go to work. um, and also tips can be just daily affirmations. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling upset, if you're feeling stressed, daily affirmations, whether that be from your Bible app, or there's a lot of resources on the SAMHSA website. And there's also a lot of resources on, if you just Google, self affirmations. There's so many resources that can kind of help someone get in the mindset of, okay, this is how I'm going to take care of myself today. So I would say affirmations, exercise, prayer, always number one. And then just, spending time with family has been a huge, way for me to, a tip for me to just get out of my own head. So, however you spend your time, I've been getting into like roller skating too. Well, not roller skating. I'm sorry, going to the skating rink. I don't even know if people call it rollerblading anymore. It's not rollerblading, but skating. That's been like something that I've been doing to just skate and just get away from my reality. So, it'll look different for everyone, but definitely just getting into activities you enjoy can be ways of taking care of your mental health.
Yeah. Okay. And then so right now you're in your PhD program?
So I'm actually currently in a program at Tennessee State, getting my doctorate in counseling psychology. Right now, we're in the process of gearing up to start dissertation. So I am like in school mode, but I'm also just kind of preparing to be in full out research mode. So it's a very exciting time. We're not, I'm to a point now where I'm not having to go to classes every day. So I've gotten all my prerequisite classes out of the way for the program. So now I'm just in the writing phase and the preparing phase. So I've been blessed to just continue to push through school. Then I know you came down to New Orleans when I finished my master's, and I'm like, I thought that was it, and here I go again. So,
I know, and that's what I'm thinking when I saw that. I'm like, what in the world? So
mhm,
what are you hoping to do with your PhD?
yeah. So I really would love. I thought that going into private practice was what I wanted to do in college, and now I'm gearing up to wanting to possibly just continue doing research. And I had a research proposal that was pretty big in college that I've tapped back into now, that was about mental health and athletics, and how much mental health can affect you know your um your outcome when you are competing in various sports. How mental health, how having that structure every day can impact, your competition when those days come. So, I'm following through with that research now, in my PhD program. I haven't tapped into it in years, so I'm still, obviously a lot of mental health research has come out now, so I'm having to find all that and kind of develop it. Um, but yeah, I've been on this journey of wanting to. Um, get my PhD and hopefully teach at the college level, hopefully be able to become a college professor. That's my ultimate goal. And then just to continue doing research. That's my passion. That's where I truly want to be. So I'm really working to make sure I get there one day. It's going to take a while, but I'm working to get there.
Well, at the pace that you on, I have 100% confidence that you will achieve whatever you set out to do. That's incredible. I'm so proud of you.
Thank
And then
you.
on the Dana Spencer show, we do talk about building relationships. So tell all the people out there. So what is your status like? Is it complicated? Are you single? Are you married? What's going on with your relationships?
So I'm single, been single for a while, and just really taking care of myself. I want to say that, I've been on dates. I've definitely, you know, um, kept my options open, but I've been doing my best to try to not, put it all on me. I've been trying my best to, um, just see where life takes me. I'm 31 now, and I'm like, it's late in the game, but it's also like, when it's my time, it's my time, and when it's not my time, trust me, I've been hit on the head a couple of times. So I'm just chilling, hanging out. I'm really just focusing on myself, and I sometimes I think that self journey can take as long as it needs to take. Um, but hopefully when the time comes and that person is who it is, I'll be able to confidently say I'm dating, I'm engaged. But for
Well, and
now,
and you're definitely not in the fourth quarter of life, right? So you've got some time on the clock.
I,
Praise it,
praise them. Yes,
respectfully.
I'm watching the clock, but also I'm like, I'm enjoying the process and dating, and just seeing where it takes me. I've moved a lot. I moved out of New Orleans in 2019 and moved to Nashville. Had a great time in Nashville, and I just moved back to Louisville in January of this year. I'm sorry. I just moved back this month. I'm like January of this year. It is January. So I just moved back after I finished last semester because I don't have any in-person classes anymore. So I'm back home, and I'm so happy to be back home. It feels great. It feels amazing. So who knows? Maybe the dating scene will be different here.
So, and in terms of with you being so competitive, and what we hear in Louisville, Kentucky is sometimes the men can be intimidated by successful women. So just think about yourself, you're approaching, having your PhD. And so sometimes men may or may not be able to deal with that. So if you had to list some characteristics of who should or should not slide in your DMs, what let's start with who should not slide in your DMs, and then what. And the Bible says that a man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. We understand that, but in terms of if you could give some clues, what would those be?
So, I would say, I'm definitely not a dating app kind of a person. So if someone, were to, I'm old school. So but then again, I don't go out to where I'm meeting people. So I've really been in this like situation where I'm like, well, how am I going to meet people if I'm not going out? I don't have the same interest to do the things I did when I was in my 20s. So, um, I'm not interested in, people sliding to my DMs saying, just it's very hard for me to kind of like introduce myself to small talk, things like that. It's probably a part of the reason why, I have a hard time dating, taking, and because I just believe in the old school way of meeting people. So, um, slide into my DMs. I mean, it's gonna be hard for me to actually like take it serious, but I would say, I'm definitely not looking for like an Instagram relationship or a Facebook relationship. I would hope that, meeting someone in person, whether that be at church or however it may be, would be my ideal way of finding someone. But I could be
Yeah.
having this thing all wrong. I mean, this could come back and bite me. Like I could be like, my husband might be in my DM somewhere. Now I gotta go check my DMs and see if he's in there.
But to your
Um,
point,
mm,
since you are like, and I feel the same way. I'm old school too. If you slide in my DMs and like the whole, oh hey beautiful, no, I'm not beautiful anymore. Like stop it with the beautiful,
exactly.
stop it with the traditional. It's going
Yes.
to have to be someone who potentially introduced me to someone, a face to face, because anybody who, for the most part, slides through my DM, I think is a creeper. So if I don't
Yes.
meet you face to face, or a friend of a friend introduce you to
Right.
somebody who is a credible, like somebody knows somebody, like if I don't even have 10 mutual friends, I don't even accept your friend request because
Exactly. Yes. 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 All of that. Yes. I'm right there with you. No, it definitely has to. And like I said, like I feel like I'm taboo of myself, but yeah, I mean, I feel like, a mutual friend, having some, we if you're among the circle that I'm in, and Louisville's pretty big, but it's pretty small too, and I get that. You know, I want to know more about you than just you being a stranger to my private messages. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And so, and the one question I didn't ask you about athletics was what are some of the things that you learned from athletics that came over and was helpful in your adult life?
Discipline, discipline, and that probably is more militant than anything, but I would say, being disciplined and um, trusting that having a schedule and having, being able to prioritize, what needs to be done, that is so transferable. Having that discipline, having that drive and that push to want to, you know, put on a show. When I was in college, we were racing at big stadiums. We were traveling to big places. We were racing at, colleges like St. Louis University, Washington University. We were going to Atlanta. We were going to all kinds of schools, really big schools, Notre Dame, University of Louisville, University of Kentucky. So you want to, put on a show naturally in front of those big crowds, especially coming from a smaller school. But also, I think that, being an athlete and how that's transferable and how I've taken those skills was just, it comes down to just showing up no matter where you are, even in my everyday job, it's not the same as putting on a show because you're running a sport or you're playing a sport, but it's also showing up for the youth, showing up for the kids who, have not had that discipline, showing up in ways for them that they don't understand what structure is. They don't understand what it means to, just push yourself really hard to get to the next phase. They might not have that support from their family, or they may be pushed too hard to where they don't have an individual opinion. So I would say those skills from being an athlete are the reason why I've been able to be in the career that I am. And it's definitely the reason why I've persevered the way I have. I owe all my success to my family, both close and distant, and also, number one to my God, but also to my family and to my ability to just be able to persevere and keep pushing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And so once you we're claiming it, once you have your PhD and then you're going to go into research,
yeah,
when do you feel like you will I mean, there's no such thing as arrived, but 5 years from now, where do you want to we all know the Lord has veto power, but if you
yeah.
get a say 5 years from now, where do you want to be?
So I would love to be at the University of Louisville, in their research lab. I would love to start my own research lab and be working with women. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for women empowerment. Be working with other women scientists, researchers, students who have the same drives and passions for mental health, and women who are in fields of science. I just want to work on a interdisciplinary team of individuals who study across a lot of different disciplines. I think that my focus on mental health and how important it is to me can affect a lot of different careers and a lot of different avenues as far as how students, it doesn't matter what student, what program you are in, but I think being able to reach students from all disciplines, I think that me being in a research lab and me being able to reach students who really and truly need to focus on their mental health. I think that being in a university setting is where I hope and pray to be in 5 years, so that I can, kind of spread that impact. And also, the more you're in that environment, the more you learn about how much you are as a person and how much you want to grow as a professional. So hopefully I'm in a university, not to go to school anymore, but hopefully I'm done and I can sign it off and say, you know what, I'm passing this on to all y'all now. That's where I hope to be. Fingers crossed.
And where would you say this passion for mental health comes from?
It comes from my own personal struggles. If I've always struggled with just wanting to understand depression, wanting to understand really just stress and how to manage stress. And so I'm like, how is it that I keep, like, it's like the work is never done? How is it that I keep having this incline to want to push myself to do more? What is it in me that says, like, I have to stay up all night long for 2 nights in a row to get this done? I've always just felt like there was a drive in me that just kept kicking me to just want to keep pushing. And so, having that passion for the stress, it was good and it was bad because I was disadvantaging myself in some ways, but it also helped me to grow. So having stress, which is a part of mental health, helped me to want to learn about stress management and how to teach other people how to get through stress as well.
So what if someone is listening out there and they've been struggling from, depression to being stressed, other than reaching out to somebody, what are some things that you would recommend that they can do?
I would say, if as far as not reaching out to someone, I would say just really tap into whatever brings you peace. For me, it's prayer. For me, it's calling my sister, calling, someone that I trust, peer, whoever. It might be going for a walk for some people. It's easier said than done because, stress, sometimes we can't escape stress. So for someone who might be experiencing stress and can't just reach out to a therapist, maybe someone just doesn't have the ability to do that, I would say think about when you're truly at peace with yourself. Think about when you truly feel like at your most relaxed state. I will also say for me, Sundays watching football, like I'm a huge, 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 huge football fan, a huge Lamar Jackson fan, a huge Ravens fan. Anytime NFL is on, like I'm happy. That can take up my entire day. When I'm home from church, it is literally football from the time I sit down to the time I go to bed at night. So for me, it's sports. For me, it's, meditation. I would say whatever helps the individual find that level of peace that no one can break. Um, that's what I would tap into for sure.
Awesome. So if we were going to put a bow on this entire conversation, what is it that you want the listeners to walk away with?
I would say, it be athletics can transfer into so many different avenues. Mental health can be seen in so many different lights. If anything, out of this conversation, I would say, whatever it is that you have aspirations to do, tap into yourself, tap into what's important to you. Look at your surroundings, look what you're, you know, building yourself to do, and just make a plan for yourself that works for you. School, I have many friends that didn't need to go to school to get to that next level. I have many friends who picked up a trade and were able to own their own businesses. I have family members who are amazing and do podcasts and have their, real estate license and are just doing the thing. It's just so beautiful to do what makes you happy and to be able to share that with others. So I would say, taking away from this podcast, do what makes you happy, but also understand that the process sometimes um, may look difficult and it may seem difficult, but the pain is always worth the glory in the end. So keep pushing. I know for a fact, I can say for myself, through athletics, through my military experience, through everything, that I wouldn't take back a thing. I don't have any regrets. And, just continue to tap into who you are and what you want in life, and you will continue to be blessed and share those blessings with others. That's the last thing. Because if I would have never had the opportunity to get on this podcast if it wasn't for the opportunity being there. So just continue to spread that love and and pass it on. That's what I would say.
Oh, I love that. The pain is worth the glory. I
The
love that.
glory.
So
Yes.
definitely out there, definitely find what brings you peace. And like Jasmine was saying, there's so many different ways to find peace. As simple as taking a hot bath. I mean, it doesn't
Yes.
have to be complicated, but definitely find that place of peace for you. So thank you so much, Jasmine, for joining us here on the Dana Spencer Show. And until next time, make sure you take care of your mental health and find that peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.